Welcome to today's episode where we delve into the most shocking confessions in criminal history. Throughout history, there have been countless crimes committed, but some of them have left a lasting impact on society due to the shocking details revealed in the confessions that followed. From serial killers to notorious organized crime bosses, these confessions have shocked the world and left us questioning the depths of human depravity. In this video, we'll be exploring some of the most shocking confessions in criminal history and the impact they had on society. Get ready to be stunned and horrified by some of the most disturbing revelations in criminal history. Number 1 on the list is the confession of the Golden State Killer. The Golden State Killer, also known as the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker, terrorized California in the 1970s and 80s. He committed at least 13 murders, more than 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries throughout the state. The Golden State Killer's crimes remained unsolved for decades until his arrest in 2018, which was largely attributed to a genealogy website. His identity was later revealed as Joseph James DeAngelo. In June 2020, Joseph James DeAngelo, who was a former police officer, pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and multiple counts of rape and kidnapping related to the Golden State Killer crimes. DeAngelo's guilty plea was part of a plea deal that spared him from the death penalty. During his confession, DeAngelo detailed the brutal crimes he committed. Joseph James DeAngelo's confession about his crimes as the Golden State Killer provided a disturbing insight into the elaborate planning and stalking tactics he employed to carry out his brutal attacks. According to his confessions, DeAngelo would typically stalk his victims for several days or even weeks before attacking them in their homes. He would break into their homes before the attack to study the layout of the house and to identify potential escape routes. This allowed him to move around the house undetected, avoid detection by any security systems, and even monitor the movements of his victims. Once he had identified his target, DeAngelo would wait until they were alone in their home before breaking in and attacking them. His attacks were often brutal and violent, with reports suggesting that he would use a variety of weapons, including knives, guns, and blunt objects. His methods of attack varied from victim to victim, with some being bludgeoned with a flashlight while others were bound and raped repeatedly. DeAngelo's attention to detail was evident in his elaborate planning, which included setting up escape routes in case he was caught. He would often leave doors or windows unlocked in strategic locations around the house to facilitate his escape, and would even stash getaway vehicles nearby to ensure a quick escape. DeAngelo's crimes were both calculated and brutal, and his confession provided a chilling glimpse into the mind of a serial killer. The fact that he was able to evade capture for so long serves as a stark reminder of the need for increased vigilance and awareness when it comes to personal safety, and the importance of using all available resources to bring violent criminals to justice. We move on to the second shocking confession. The confession of Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Wuornos was an American serial killer who confessed to killing 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990. Her crimes shocked the nation and gained worldwide media attention not only for the brutality of the murders, but also for her unique background and the events that led her to become a killer. Wuornos had a difficult childhood, which included physical and sexual abuse, as well as giving birth to a child at the age of 14, which she gave up for adoption. She became a prostitute at a young age and lived a transient lifestyle, traveling across the United States before settling in Florida. In her confessions, Wuornos stated that she killed her victims in self-defense, claiming they had either raped or attempted to rape her during their encounters. However, some of the evidence suggested that she may have killed for money, as she was known to have taken the victims' valuables after their deaths. Despite her claims of self-defense, Wuornos was arraigned in court, convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Her case sparked controversy and debate, with some arguing that her traumatic upbringing and experiences as a sex worker should have been taken into account during her trial. Wuornos was executed by lethal injection in 2002. Her confession remains one of the most infamous and controversial in American criminal history, with many still debating the fairness of her trial and sentencing, as she already pleaded guilty and confessed to her crimes. On to the number 3 shocking case, we have the confession of Lawrence Singleton. Lawrence Singleton was an American criminal who gained infamy for committing a heinous crime in 1978. Singleton was convicted of the rape and mutilation of a 15-year-old girl named Mary Vincent, whom he picked up while she was hitchhiking. Singleton brutally attacked her, leaving her for dead with both of her arms severed. After the crime, Singleton went on the run and was eventually caught and arrested in Florida. During his trial, Singleton made a shocking confession admitting to the crime but insisting that he didn't mean to kill Vincent. He claimed that the attack was the result of a sudden fit of rage and that he regretted what he had done. Despite his confession, Singleton was found guilty and sentenced to 14 years in prison. However, due to a technicality in his sentence, he was released after just 8 years and moved to California to live with his mother. In 1997, Singleton made another shocking confession in an interview with a reporter, admitting that he had lied during his trial and that he had intended to kill Mary Vincent. He claimed that he had only made the confession to avoid the death penalty and that he had no remorse for what he had done. Singleton's confession caused outrage and disgust among the public, and he was widely condemned for his actions. He died of cancer in 2001, leaving behind a legacy of horror and revulsion. The confession of Lawrence Singleton remains one of the most shocking and disturbing in criminal history, highlighting the depths of human depravity and the devastating consequences of violent crime. If you thought that was shocking, wait until you hear the fourth case, the confession of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, was a notorious serial killer and rapist who terrorized Southern California in the mid-1980s. His crime spree lasted from 1984 to 1985, during which he killed at least 14 people and committed multiple sexual assaults and burglaries. After a highly publicized manhunt, Ramirez was finally captured in August 1985 and charged with multiple counts of murder, rape, and burglary. It wasn't until his confession, however, that the full extent of his crimes and the true horror of his actions were revealed. During his confession, Ramirez admitted to a wide range of crimes, including murders, sexual assaults, and burglaries, especially at night, which earned him the nickname Night Stalker. He also claimed to have been motivated by a demonic force that urged him to commit his crimes. He mostly enjoys his sexual assaults on married couples, where he would kill the husband of the woman and rape her before eventually killing her. Ramirez's confession was shocking, not only for the brutal and sadistic nature of his crimes, but also for his apparent lack of remorse or empathy for his victims. He often taunted and mocked the families of his victims during his trial, earning him the nickname the Devil himself in the media. Ramirez's confession and trial drew widespread attention and sparked fear and outrage in Southern California. His crimes and the subsequent media coverage left a lasting impact on society and inspired numerous books, documentaries, and movies. In the end, Ramirez was convicted of multiple counts of murder, rape, and burglary and sentenced to death. He died in prison in 2013 while awaiting execution, leaving behind a legacy of fear and horror that still haunts the memories of those who lived through his reign of terror. Let's dive into the next jaw-dropping case, confession number 5. The Confession of Peter Kürten. Peter Kürten, also known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, was a notorious German serial killer who terrorized the city of Dusseldorf during the 1920s. He was responsible for a series of gruesome murders, assaults, and other violent crimes, earning him a reputation as one of the most depraved criminals in modern history. Kürten's reign of terror began in February 1929, when he attacked and killed an elderly woman in her home. Over the next several months, he went on committing a string of brutal murders, including the stabbing and strangulation of young girls and women. Despite a massive manhunt, Kürten managed to evade capture for months, taunting the police and sending them letters detailing his crimes. It wasn't until May 1930 that he was finally caught and arrested. During his trial, Kürten shocked the world by confessing to over 70 crimes, including 9 murders, several attempted murders, and numerous sexual assaults. He described in detail the pleasure he derived from inflicting pain on his victims, and even claimed to have drank their blood on several occasions, earning him the nickname Vampire of Dusseldorf. Kürten's confessions stunned the public and cemented his reputation as one of the most twisted and sadistic killers in history. He was eventually found guilty of his crimes and sentenced to death, which he eagerly accepted, claiming that he was the king of the degenerates. He was executed by guillotine in July 1931, bringing an end to one of the most shocking and disturbing criminal cases in modern history. And we move on to the final shocking confession in criminal history. The details of this last confession are so disturbing that they have been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and movies. Some have even questioned whether the killer in question was human, or if he was possessed by some kind of demonic force. It is the confession of Albert Fish. Albert Fish, also known as the Grey Man or the Werewolf of Wisteria, was an American serial killer who terrorized the country during the early 1900s. Fish was known for his disturbing crimes, which included the rape, torture, and murder of children. After he was finally arrested in 1934 for the kidnapping and murder of 10-year-old Grace Budd, Fish made a shocking confession to several other crimes. He claimed to have killed at least 3 other children and admitted to mutilating and eating their bodies. Fish also confessed to the murders of 2 other young girls and claimed to have killed around 100 children throughout his life. Fish's confessions were disturbing and graphic, and he showed no remorse for his actions. He described his crimes in great detail, revealing that he would often lure children away from their homes by pretending to be a kind old man. Once he had them alone, he would torture and mutilate them, often keeping their remains for days before disposing of them. He claimed to have cannibalized some of his victims and even wrote a letter to Grace Budd's mother, describing how he had killed and eaten her daughter. The letter is still considered one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in criminal history. Fish's confessions shocked the nation and led to a public outcry for justice. He was eventually found guilty of the murder of Grace Budd and sentenced to death by electrocution. Despite his heinous crimes, Fish remained calm and composed throughout his trial, showing no signs of remorse or regret. His confessions, though disturbing, provided a glimpse into the mind of a true psychopath. His horrific crimes and detailed confessions have been the subject of countless books, films, and documentaries, and continue to fascinate criminologists and true crime enthusiasts to this day. Thank you for joining us today as we delved into the world of criminal confessions. We hope you found our coverage of the most shocking confessions in criminal history informative and thought-provoking. These cases have left an indelible mark on our society and continue to captivate us with their harrowing details. As we move forward, let us remember the victims and their families and continue to work towards a more just and equitable world. We appreciate you taking the time to explore this topic with us, and we look forward to bringing you more thought-provoking content in the future. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all our latest videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.